Yo, what's up, people? We are back. I was actually debating on whether or not to do this video today, this week, because of today being my my grandmother's anniversary, but I actually have some time to film this. So we're just gonna hop right into it. I'm not gonna really talk too long because this is their anniversary, so I wanna get back to them, spend as much time with them as possible. So Rams vs. Seahawks. This was possibly the greatest Thursday night football game I've seen in like quite a while. I can't even remember the last time I seen something like this happen. Very close first half. 13-7. Seahawks come out firing. Boom. Kenneth Walker, 55-yard touchdown. Take the lead. And then the Rams, they kick a field goal to respond. And I honestly thought that for a little bit there that it was going to be game over because Sam Darnold, he threw back-to-back interceptions on back-to-back drives. Both ended in a Rams touchdown. I thought that was going to be it. I was like, oh, well, looks like the Rams are still Sam Darnold's kryptonite because, as you know, early this year, he threw 4 interceptions, and then even going back to last year, he had a really terrible game in the playoffs. But when he was with the Minnesota Vikings, so I really thought like, oh, the Rams are really gonna be the kryptonite. No, things all changed when Rashid Shaheed, the former Saints wide receiver, took a punt return back. I was be honest, I was gonna turn off the game. I was like, okay, game's over. It's 30-14. We've seen how some of these have gone. I saw the punt return touchdown. I'm like, okay, let me sit back down. Let me just pay attention to the game. Just for like a little, just like for a little bit longer. And then it was honestly one of the greatest endings. I mean, the Rams. I mean, what was this? You went back-to-back drives, 3 and out. You didn't even take off they took off maybe like a combined 2 minutes off the clock. And y'all are deep in your own part of the field. So when you kick it off to the Seahawks, you're giving them great field position. So they didn't even have to go far to score. And so obviously they're gonna take advantage of this. You know what I mean? I will say this though. On that 2-point conversion where Zach Charbonnet picked it up, I didn't even know. I'm like, I thought really that could have gone either way. The Dean Bland, or whoever the rules analyst is that have for that game, he said, "Oh, it's a backwards pass," and since technically no one touched it, since it's technically a dead ball, you know what I mean? Like, I thought it was incomplete because it went down. So that was kind of it. But because it was a backwards pass, they recovered it. It's a tie game now. I'm like, oh, snap. We've got a game here, folks. And the Rams, to take the lead, right? For a lead, there's like 2 minutes left in the game. They missed the field goal, bruh. Oh, my Lord. They got down the field. I'm like, all right, they're going to hit the field goal. Nah, Brody missed wide right. Now, I'm like, you're telling me you missed wide right, my G? And then they just flipping back and forth. Like, oh, we don't want the ball, you take it. And nah, we don't want the ball, you take it. Now we don't want the ball, you take it. We got overtime now. And Rams first possession, Puka Nacua over the middle. No one was really guarding him. I don't know why you wouldn't guard Puka Nacua, but he scored. And then the Seahawks, they took their sweet old time getting on the field. They converted a couple of clutch third downs. Sam Darnold under pressure, he delivered an absolute dime to Jackson Smith and Jigba. He delivered an absolute dime to Cooper Kupp on the sideline where he dragged his feet, and they scored in the back of the end zone to JSN, connected with the JSN network. You know what I mean? On the 2-point conversion, though, I don't know what happened, or what the coverage was that was being called on that. But how do you leave how do you leave someone wide open? Like no coverage. It's just like, oh, little pitch and catch. 2-point conversion. Game's over. Seahawks win. I really don't understand how that happens. But overall, great game. And this is kind of like that was kind of like the whole thing for this week actually. Both in football and basketball. Like there was a ton of great games. So we're gonna get into Spurs versus Knicks. This was for the NBA Cup Finals. So both teams, the Spurs come off their huge win against the Thunder. No one was expecting that. I'm be honest with you. The Spurs was not a team that I thought would beat the Thunder. But you know what? It makes sense. This was a really great game, honestly. The Spurs, I'm gonna be honest with you, Spurs had the lead for the majority of the game, right? From like all the way up from the end of the first quarter to like in beginning of the fourth. They had the lead, right? Like, Knicks would always keep it within scoring distance. Like they always keep it within 10 points, but they would never either be able to tie the game or get close enough to actually take the lead. You know what I mean? Like they would get like to within like 6 or 7 points, So there's that. But the tide really all shifted at the end of the third quarter and beginning the fourth when the Knicks went on a 10-0 run starting at the end of the third, going into the beginning of the fourth, and the momentum really shifted after that. The Knicks, the fourth quarter was their quarter. Like they took the lead, they controlled the lead, they made sure that they didn't give it up, and then they ended up winning. So great, kudos to them. They really deserved that win. It was a really great game. Really enjoyed myself. Another great game was Rockets versus Nuggets. This was like this was a great game going down to the wire. I mean, like these are some of the best teams in not only their division, but not only their conference, but in all of NBA. And that's what happens when you get two great teams going against each other. You get games like this. You know what I mean? And not every game is going to be like this, right? And every game is going to go down into overtime. Not every game is going to be like this close to a game that it's going to be this close. But these are the games that I love to see as a fan. And that fourth quarter, I mean, you had Şengün going against Jokic. It was crazy, man. Like, the whole game was crazy. I will say this, though. At the end of the game, that foul that gave the Nuggets that free throw, that wasn't a foul. Homeboy started tripping before either Amen. It was Amen Thompson. Before Amen even touched him, he was stumbling before he got touched. I don't think that should have been a foul. I really don't. I really think that the Nuggets got bailed out. I really think it was. I think were they at home or were they? I don't know if they were at home or not. If they were at home, then it was a little bit at home cooking. If they weren't at home, then I don't know. But I don't think that was a foul though. I really don't. But in overtime, Jokic got kicked out. Not kicked out, but he fouled out. And the Nuggets really took over in that overtime period, and it was just all of them. They held on to win. Like I said, though, great game. Really enjoyed myself. Dolphins and Steelers. Takeaways from this game. Dolphins, obviously they can't play in cold weather. Tua Tagovailoa is Tua turned the ball over. The Steelers actually had 4 back-to-back scoring drives. They had 4 scoring drives back-to-back. I never thought I'd see today. Jonnu Smith ran in a touchdown. DK Metcalf had a touchdown where he said, He caught it and then just threw somebody off, juked someone out, and I mean, it wasn't really that. It really wasn't that close of a game. The score necessarily doesn't indicate that, right? Because it says 28-15. But if you watch the game, you know that those two touchdowns that were scored by the Dolphins were kind of like garbage time touchdowns, and they don't really count towards like the score, I would say, in my eyes. But yeah. Then we have Pistons and Celtics. This game was really about like who could run their scheme the best. The Pistons. They want to get in the paint. They want to attack the paint. They want to get paint. They want to get a lot of paint points. The Celtics, they want to shoot threes. They want to shoot an abundance of them. You know what I mean? And they were definitely getting up a lot of threes. At one point, even at half, the Pistons had more threes made than than the Celtics. They were shooting them at a better clip, and those threes were timely threes. They were still getting in the paint though. But the Celtics really had a good philosophy. Like, okay, look, we're gonna force you to take these threes. When someone dives into this paint, four of us are gonna come and surround you in the paint. We're gonna force you to kick out and force you to force you to shoot these threes and make these threes because we know that you can't. You know what I mean? We're gonna force them to do the one thing that they could not do. This game, like I said, like the other basketball games, was amazing. Like I said, this was absolutely two of the best teams in talent-wise in the NBA. The Pistons showed me exactly why they're the number one team in the Eastern Conference, because even still being thrown off their game plan a little bit, they still stuck with it and they were still able to capitalize to some extent. Derek White, he had a great second half. He had 23 second half points. Cade Cunningham had a great game. He had 30 plus. Pistons hold on 112-105. It really did feel like a playoff caliber game. I'll be honest with you. Like, this is like, these are the kind of games that I'm getting to see on like, I want to say regular TV, but during the regular season. Then yeah, I'm really excited for the playoffs. Then we have the Sunday Night Football game. We have Cowboys and Vikings. I'm gonna just say this: it's hard to win games when you only score 2 touchdowns. It's hard to win games when you only score 2 touchdowns and you miss 2 field goals and you only score 2 field goals in the second, or you only score 3 field goals in the second half. It's kind of hard to do that, and that's what happens with the Cowboys. They were able to move the ball down the field, but when the Vikings needed to clutch up the most, they did that. They were able to get stops. They were able to force field goals. They were even able to force 2 missed field goals from Brandon Aubrey. Brandon Aubrey is somehow human. Yes. Brandon Aubrey is human, people. I didn't think it was possible. But the Vikings just played a better game. Their defense played better than the Cowboys' defense. The Vikings' offense played better than the Cowboys' offense. And when they got down in the red zone, they weren't kicking field goals. They were scoring touchdowns. And see, that's the key point. Is when they got down the field, they weren't stalling out. They were converting the third downs. They were getting big. They were getting yardage. They were getting good yardage on first and second down. So when they had to get third down, it wasn't that they didn't have to go far. The blocking was pretty good. The coverage was pretty good. You know what I mean? Everything was just going right for the Vikings. Even though they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they still came out, played a great game. The Cowboys just played like they didn't want to win the game. And I think that's just what it goes down to it. The Cowboys defense, they sucked this game. The Cowboys offense, yes, you move the ball down the field, but when you only score 2 touchdowns and they come in the first half, and the only points you get in the second half are field goals, there's only so much you can do, But the Cowboys, they only have like a 1% chance at winning the division and making it to the playoffs. And the only chance I have is that if the Eagles, they lose out and the Cowboys win out. That's the only way that the Cowboys would be able to win the division and then go to the playoffs. So I don't see that happening at all. And I think this is the first time in like a while that the NFC East will have a back-to-back division winner, which is kind of crazy to think about that. It's always been the Cowboys or Eagles winning. You have the Redskins here 1 year, you got the Giants here a couple of years, but for the most part, it's always been the Cowboys, Eagles, Cowboys, Eagles. So it's kind of crazy that I think we're going to have a back-to-back division winner, Moving on to Lions and Rams. This was a really good game. I really enjoyed this game. The Rams are one of the best teams in the league. I mean, you've seen it in the Seahawks game. You've seen it in the Lions game. I still do think that the Rams will be the ones to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC. And out of the AFC, still not, convinced with the Broncos, honestly. I do think that the Patriots will win it, even though they did lose to the Bills. I still do think the Patriots will win the AFC overall. But this was a really close game. Really until like the second half. You know what I mean? Like it was a close game in the first half. The Rams, they got three. And then it was just really all Rams from there on out. It was a touchy touchdown call on Kobe Parkinson where he was down to one, but they ruled it a touchdown. I don't know how you rule that a touchdown, honestly, but yeah. But for the most part, it was for the majority of the second half, it was mainly Rams. Even though the Lions did try to mount a small little comeback, the Lions were able to do it. Rams hold on. Rams win. But the Lions really needed that win. I'm gonna be honest with you. The Lions needed that win in order to stay, even to have a chance in the playoffs. And with that, I do think that they are pretty much out. But we'll see what happens. The final things I'm going to talk about is Giants versus Ravens, and then what was it? Giants and Ravens, and then Commanders versus Giants. Bengals and Ravens, Commanders versus Giants. Yeah. Let me look at this, because didn't the Bengals get shut out in this game? Yeah. They got shut out 24-0. Yeah, Bengals. Y'all just, I don't even know what to say about the Bengals, but y'all got to rebuild for next year. Giants versus Commanders. Dude, the fact that the Giants almost came back and won this game to me is like low-key kind of insane. Because like the Commanders were in control of the game for the majority of the game. They were up 29-14, right? At like in the third or fourth quarter, Giants score, right? And now the Commanders are just trying to run the ball, waste clock. Jeremy McNichols fumbles, and it's recovered by the Giants. Luckily, the Giants are the Giants, and they don't do nothing with it. But imagine if the Giants are actually able to tie the game and it goes into overtime. Like, my goodness. But Giants, they keep hold of the number one overall pick. Commanders, congratulations. Y'all are better than the worst team, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Congratulations. Better luck next year. Commanders, the Commanders are very, what is the word? Very, not a disappointment. It was just very unlucky this year. With Jaden Daniels being injured, and he's gonna be out for the rest of the year. So I think that should have been a thing that it should have been done. I really think that should have been done way before then. But Commanders, better luck next year. The Giants, I think y'all have something with Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboo, and what is it? Malik Neighbors. Y'all got something going. So I would say next year I would be more worried about the Giants than I would be with the Commanders, because the Giants have more upside than the Commanders do, because they have a lot more younger talent. So I do think the Giants, give it like another year or two, and they'll be, fighting for a playoff spot in the NFC. They'll be threatening the Cowboys and the Eagles for that top spot in the NFC East. So if I'm a Giants fan, I'm feeling very optimistic about the next year. Maybe not from like a coaching standpoint, but from a player standpoint, I'm more. If I was a Giants fan, I'd be more excited about next year than I would be if I was a Commanders fan. So yeah, I just wanted to make this quick video. I didn't have much to talk about, because this whole week I've been trying to worry about what I'm gonna do for my grandfather's anniversary. So yeah, until next time, peace.